Welcome back. For the next 10 days, disabled athletes from around the world will compete in London for one or more of 499 gold medals. 28 gold medals will be awarded today for the sports of shooting, swimming, judo, and cycling, which was our focus before the break. Now let's turn our attention to a sport where athletes play basketball sitting down on line 11.
The Summer Paralympics 2012. Wheelchair basketball. Wheelchair basketball has almost all the same rules as regular basketball, including the size of the court and the height of the hoops. Players are even required to bounce the ball while pushing their wheelchairs. Unlike many Paralympic sports, wheelchair basketball permits participants with different disabilities to play together. Players receive a number from 1 to 4.5, with lower numbers corresponding to more severe disabilities. The sum of the numbers for all players on the court for each team must be 14 or lower.
All right, so we've learned about cycling in the Paralympics, but what other events do they have, Kayla?
Well, we're going to look at wheelchair basketball. But we know what basketball is, but to make this make sense, we really need to know what a wheelchair is.
Good point. Okay, a wheelchair is a chair that has wheels on it. Now, it's more than that, though. This is a chair designed for people who do not have use of their legs. And so it usually has large wheels in the back that you use your hands to make it go.
So it does not mean like a desk chair with wheels on the bottom.
No, it does not.
Okay, it's a special kind of chair, as Ryan said, with big wheels in the back and usually smaller wheels in the front that you use your hands to move. And you can see examples of this sporting event and therefore pictures of a wheelchair on page 51 in the top right-hand corner.
That's right. Now, friends, you might be thinking, well, a wheelchair requires you to use your hands to make it go, and basketball requires you to use your hands to shoot the ball. Well, how does this work? Let's find out.
Well, wheelchair basketball has almost the same rules as regular basketball, which is hard to believe because when you're playing regular basketball, you're standing up and you can use your hands to dribble the ball as you run to bounce the ball down the court. How do you do that when you're trying to move wheels?
Well, I'm not sure, actually. This requires a lot of skill that most basketball players probably don't have.
That's right. Well, let's see. Most of the rules are the same as regular basketball. What are those rules that are the same?
Okay, the size of the court is the same. Of course, the court is the area where you play. And the height of the hoops. What are the hoops?
The hoops are those backboards, those boards with the round circle and the net hanging off of them that we're shooting into. Now, if you think about it, those hoops are very tall. And I know even standing up, I miss a lot when I try to shoot a basketball. Can you imagine doing that sitting down?
I know. Those hoops are what, 9 feet, something like that? It's really high, and so when you're sitting down, it's even farther away. Now, of course, if most of the rules are the same, then players are even required to bounce the ball while they're pushing their wheelchairs.
So we said they have to bounce the ball. We were talking about this earlier. I also used the word to dribble. That is continually bouncing. And to bounce something means to move it up and down or away from a surface. So if you take a basketball and throw it to the ground, it comes back up to you. That is to bounce.
That's right. We usually use this word with something like a ball or something made of rubber when you throw it on the ground and it hits and comes back up to you. Of course, in basketball, you have to do this almost the whole time, and that is where the word dribble comes from.
That's right. And these players still have to do that. They still have to be when they're moving, that ball still needs to be bouncing the entire time. So that takes incredible skill. Ryan, we also talked about the court being the same size. Can you imagine having wheelchairs out on the court having to move around each other?
Oh yeah, you have to, not just get from one end to the other, you have to not run into anybody too. And you can see there's a lot of wheelchairs in this picture on page 51.
That's right. It takes incredible skill to do this. But unlike many Paralympic sports, wheelchair basketball permits participants with different disabilities to play together. So what does that mean?
Okay, now, if you have different disabilities, that means that whatever is causing you to not be able to have the abilities as most people is different from the other people you're playing against. So maybe, Kayla, an example might be a player that doesn't have use of his legs might be able to play with someone that, doesn't have the use of other parts of his body.
Okay, so they're allowed to participate together, and participate means they can play together even though they have different disabilities. We see that word to permit. That means they are allowed to do this.
All right, so players receive a number 1 to 4.5 with lower numbers corresponding to more severe disabilities.
Okay, so this is how their disabilities are separated. We said that they have different disabilities, but then they are rated on a scale of 1 to 4.5. Low numbers meaning they have severe disabilities.
Right, and we see the word corresponding to more severe disabilities, and the word corresponding means it is related to something or results in something. How can we use that here?
Well, in this situation, it means if you are, say, a number 1 or number 2, your disability is more severe. And severe means serious or causes a little bit more problem. It's harder to deal with.
Okay, so if you were a 4.5, then your disability is not as severe or it doesn't stop you as much as other people's disabilities.
Maybe a severe disability would mean you don't have your legs. You just have no legs at all.
Right, and one that is less severe, maybe you just have no use of your foot or something like that. So in that case, people can play together. Now, the sum of the numbers for all players on the court for each team must be 14 or lower.
And that's how they allow them to play with different ranges of disabilities to allow people to compete together is they add those numbers up, and you have to keep that number under 14.
All right, friends, join us tomorrow, but now let's visit the chat room.
So, Ken, do you still play basketball at that park on Saturday mornings?
Not anymore. I'm looking for a new place to practice my shot.
Why? What happened at the park?
Well, some tall person jumped up, held onto the hoop, and then bent it. Now no one can use it.
That's too bad. I hope you find another place to practice. And Ken, in that sentence, you should say rim instead of hoop.
Rim? Isn't the thing you shoot the basketball through called a hoop?
Of course, but the metal hoop itself is called the rim. It's more common to say a player hangs on the rim than he or she hangs on the hoop.
Okay, I'll remember that. So, Brian, have you ever hung on the rim?
That's funny, Ken. You know I can't jump that high. But I used to be a pretty good shooter. My college roommates and I used to shoot hoops every week.
Shoot hoops? Does that mean you took turns shooting the ball, or that you played a few games together?
We did play a few games together, although we didn't play long because none of us could run up and down the court for very long.
I can picture you gasping for air. Hey, what do you call it when a player shoots the ball and makes it, and the shot is so good that it goes straight through the rim without touching the side?
I would say that he swished it, because that's the sound the net makes when the ball flies straight through it.
Yes, swish. That's the nickname of one of my favorite Knicks players, J.R. Swish.
Right, also known as J.R. Smith. He earned his nickname after swishing a whole bunch of three-point shots over the years.
Man, all this talk of basketball has me eager to practice.
Me too. If you're up for it, Ken, we could shoot some hoops together at my house this weekend.
Sounds great. Let's do it. 今天的课文介绍轮椅篮球赛，我们不妨来学几个跟篮球相关的字。课文中提到 hoops，hoop 就是篮筐，所以打篮球口语的讲法就是 shoot hoops. Let's shoot some hoops at my house this weekend. 这个周末来我家打篮球吧。那篮筐呢，也可以叫做 rim， 就是那个铁环。我们看 NBA 球赛的时候，常常会看到灌篮，那有些球员灌篮以后呢，会继续抓住那个篮筐，那就是 hanging on the rim， 而不是 hoop。另外，空心球会用 swish 这个字，这是个拟声字，因为当那个空心球穿越篮网的时候，那就是它所制造出的声音 swish。那一般当动词用 he swished it， 他投了一个空心球。好，我们下次图书馆见。
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle. 首先我们来看的是 modify 这个动词。modify 是指更改或修改。至于它的第三人称单数是去掉字尾的 y 加上 ies。它的过去式和过去分词也是去掉字尾的 y 再加上 ied。例如 The computer program can be modified to meet customers' needs. 这个电脑程式可以根据顾客的需求而修改。或者是 The clinic's facilities were modified for the elderly patients. 这家诊所针对年长的病人更新了设备。继续我们看的是 steer 这个动词。steer 是指驾驶或者是掌舵。例如 Dad steered while Mom gave directions. 爸爸开车，妈妈一边告诉他方向。或者是 Tim steered his car out of the traffic jam. Tim 把车子开出这段塞车的路段。Steer 也指引导或带领。例如 Teresa tried to steer their conversation away from this sensitive topic. Teresa 试着把他们的对话引导离开这个敏感的话题。最后我们看的是 correspond 这个动词。COR 这个字首有一起的意思，所以 correspond 是指符合或者是一致。如果要说明符合的对象的话，是用 to 或者是 with 这两个介系词。例如The witness's statement corresponds with the victim's. 证人的证词和被害者所说的是一致的。或者是 The result of the experiment corresponds to what we expected. 实验的结果和我们所预期的是一致的。And time really flies. I'll see you tomorrow. See you then. Bye bye.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. It's estimated that about 100,000 people in the world, men, women, boys, and girls, play organized wheelchair basketball. Countries that consistently field competitive wheelchair basketball teams include the US, the Netherlands, and Japan. Countries like Australia and Canada allow non-disabled athletes using wheelchairs to compete. However, they are not allowed to participate in international competitions. Friends, tomorrow we'll look at a Paralympic sport that is played by listening to a ball. Until then, I hope the rest of your Thursday is great. Take care. Tracy Peterson got into trouble and ended up hurting her best friend Helen. Will they ever be friends again? Find out in our last episode of Kidnapped.
Later, back at the Petersons' house, I sat in the living room, alone with Tracy.
I'm sorry, Helen. I didn't know what to do.
What am I supposed to do now? How can I trust you anymore?
I know, and I'm sorry. But I was hoping that somehow you would forgive me.
Forgive you? I don't know. I was almost killed.
All I can say is I'm sorry.
Well, I guess it is the right thing to do.
Then you'll forgive me?
Yes. But it will take me a long time before I can trust you again.
Tune in next time to Kidnapped.